Hello and welcome to the radiotimes.com Doctor Who podcast. My name's Huw Fullerton.
My name's Morgan Jeffrey.
And this week we're dealing with some Doctor Who's. It's not me, it's Doctor Who news. I thought as a portmanteau it would really work. It kind of didn't. But yeah, basically we've been doing a lot of specific episodes on this recently. But there's actually been a bit of new Doctor Who development that we felt like we wanted to chat about. Isn't that right, Morgan? I'm going to throw to you in a very professional way.
That is correct. Yes, recently it wasn't an official announcement, but there's been a leak of sorts, a photo that emerged online of what appears to be sort of a brand new Dalek design, but really it's a modified version, isn't it, of the Recon Dalek that we previously saw in Resolution.
That's right. Yeah, basically a picture came online. Apparently from filming of the late 2020/early 2021 festive special Revolution of the Daleks, which was filmed way back in 2019, pre-coronavirus lockdown. Yeah, it's a picture of basically, like Morgan says, it's a slightly sleeker version of the design we saw in 2019. Yeah, so a lot of fans are kind of pretty excited to sort of see a new Dalek, and in typical Doctor Who fashion, complain about the changes and the new design. Especially when it comes to Daleks, a lot of Doctor Who, bit of a long history of Doctor Who fans complaining about the design. But yeah, no, it's kind of interesting. We've sort of, in a weird sort of way, we'd sort of seen this new design before, obviously in Resolution, but also there had been some leaked bits of filming where we'd seen a Dalek that looked a bit like this, facing off with the kind of status quo. I mean, in terms of they are the status quo, they're not in any way like the band Status Quo. Although if you can think of some ways that they are the same, answers on a postcard. Yeah, they're facing off with them on Clifton Suspension Bridge, but this is a really clear look at it. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just going to describe it to you with the power of words because we don't have an image on here. But yeah, basically, I'd say it's maybe a little smaller as a Dalek. It certainly seems a little smaller. It's a bit more cinched. I keep on using that word. It just sort of looks like it's wearing a corset. It's less of a head body. It's more like a head, sort of middle, and then like skirt look. Do you know what I mean? It's slightly more segmented, like it's more like a little person, and it's got this kind of. Sorry.
Although ironically, apparently doesn't have a person in it.
That's true. That's the big change. One of the reasons
why, these Daleks are remote control, or at least partly remote controlled, which is what allows for the slightly more svelte figure of these newly redesigned Daleks.
I mean, presumably great for the age of social distancing as well. A few remote controlled Daleks, everyone's standing far away. But we'll get onto that later. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Basically, we've said this a few times, but yeah, we saw a version of this Dalek in Resolution, where the story is that it's a Recon Dalek that kind of builds itself a casing out of junk. And I think a few people speculated at the time that it was a slightly different looking Dalek, and this might be the kind of rough version of what they were going to be. A little bit like how they did Ashad, the lone Cyberman, as Rustman, and then they had slightly fancier Daleks. Although bizarrely, the fancier Cybermen didn't actually look anything like Ashad. So no. I don't know what was going on with that.
And actually, I thought Ashad and his sort of slightly stripped back, rusted Cyberman look actually looked way better than the final Cyberman design. And equally, although I liked the design of the Recon Dalek in Resolution, I liked it with the proviso that it was within the context of the story a bit of a botched job. And again, I'm not sure how I feel about the look of this new Dalek.
Yeah, it's a bit funny, isn't it? Because it's sort of there's been a lot of back and forth online about this sign. Obviously, a few caveats. We haven't seen it in action. We haven't seen how it moves and how it looks like in comparison to other people. And yeah, it's basically kind of reactions that you would have had to the rusted Dalek are kind of similar to this. There's very minor aesthetic changes. It's black, it's properly painted. The baubles that go on the skirt are slightly smaller and there's some sort of vent stuff going on, but apart from that, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, but I think somehow that whole aesthetic, that sort of rusted, thrown together aesthetic worked for that look. And I don't feel like it's quite as powerful when it is fully polished. It looks, I know it has split opinion online, this new Dalek, and it just looks a bit puny.
I know what you mean.
Because I love Stephen Moffat's description of the Daleks as insane tanks, and this design to me doesn't look like it has much weight or heft to it. Now, of course, you can famously go too chunky with the Daleks. The new Paradigm had some pretty thick shell casings, but something like the Special Weapons Dalek from Remembrance of the Daleks in 1988. I really love that because it looked properly formidable. Whereas I hate to say it, this new Dalek does look a little bit like it could be defeated by a strong gust of wind. But as you say, we've not seen it in action. It's unfair really to judge it at this stage because we haven't even seen a professional image of it, an official image. We've only seen this one shot taken by a fan, which may not do the new design total justice.
Yeah, also, I think it's quite funny though that you say that it looks quite puny, because I think that maybe does tie in a little to the fact that if it is, you know, a radio controlled Dalek, you do kind of, I feel like you do notice the difference, weirdly. It feels less like a living thing. It's more like a robot, which is kind of what the Daleks get mistaken for a lot. Obviously, they're cyborgs, really. But yeah, it's also funny that you bring up the new Paradigm Daleks, because I was going to bring those up, which is the last time someone tried to do a major redesign of the Daleks was in 2010 with the Stephen Moffat era. And it's gone down in Doctor Who infamy as like a terrible design. I think it's one of those funny ones where in person they're quite good and they're quite scary, but just on the screen they just look really quite plasticky and sort of like just a bit strange, and they really didn't last very long at all until the bronze ones came to that.
Yeah, and that's interesting because there have been many successful redesigns in Doctor Who of classic monsters, also a few less successful redesigns. I mean, it's personal taste, but for me, the new series Silurians aren't a patch on the classic series. I prefer those. But having said that, that's the only instance I can think of, the new Paradigm Daleks, where they actually almost admitted their mistake and almost immediately, as you say, rolled it back and went, you know what? No, we shouldn't have done that. Let's revert to the classic bronze Daleks, which have then remained in place pretty much up until now, right?
Yeah, with kind of minor variations like the Dalek Supreme and Dalek Sec and things like that. Although most of them were like pre-New Paradigm, they've just brought them back. I love, by the way, that in Asylum of the Daleks, there are a couple of New Paradigm Daleks just sort of knocking about in the Dalek Parliament, like just in the background, like bodyguards or something. So I'm not really sure what happened there. There is some sort of, I think there are some theories. If you ever went to the Doctor Who experience back in the day when it was the Matt Smith era, I think, yeah, it was that period. They had like a sort of story when you walk through where the new Paradigm Daleks basically were having a war with the remaining Bronze Daleks, who were arguing that you know, they were from Davros himself, the Bronze Daleks now, so they were pure Daleks, and the new Paradigm Daleks saying, no, we're pure, we are the Paradigm. And they were basically arguing about who was the purest. I actually thought that was quite a good explanation for where they all went.
Yeah, well, and in fighting amongst the Daleks, that has played a huge part, actually, in the Daleks' Doctor Who history. Actually, a larger part than you sort of realise at first, because you go all the way back to Evil of the Daleks in 1967, and you had their Daleks that were loyal to their Emperor, and then these other Daleks who had been implanted with the human factor by the second Doctor, and there was a Dalek civil war on Skaro. And then, again, pretty much from Genesis of the Daleks onwards in 1975, every classic series Dalek story was concerned with this idea of warring Dalek factions. And then again, sort of post-victory of the Daleks, you had this idea of bronze Daleks going up against the new Paradigm. So actually, Dalek civil war is a big part of Dalek mythology.
And this new design might become a part of that in a very flawless segue. Yeah, one of the things that we have seen from filming of this episode, before we even knew what they were filming, this was obviously pre-Series 12, fans saw what looked like this smaller Black Recon Dalek kind of taking on, you know, about 10 bronze Daleks and being, you know, destroyed. So hopefully that's not a massive spoiler, but, you know, it was on the BBC website, so we think we're okay to say that. And we don't know the context of it at all. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. And the episode's obviously called Revolution of the Daleks, which does kind of follow a trend, you know, Remembrance of the Daleks and Revelation of the Daleks. And do you remember the other one was?
Resurrection
of the Daleks, yeah. With the R of the Daleks Doctor Who stories are all Dalek Civil War episodes in the classic series. Like it's only those, I think, people might correct me on this, it's only those R of the Daleks, those three, and then Resolution, which is sort of our Dalek story but doesn't have other Daleks than this one. So I like to think that maybe that's a message to fans that this is going to be kind of following in a similar vein.
Well, certainly the comparisons are obvious between Revolution and Revelation of the Daleks. Revelation being one of the one of the episodes that was concerned with the Dalek civil war. And then also just the word revolution, again, suggests some sort of uprising and again, could play into the whole idea of the civil war.
Yeah, well, I spoke to Nick Briggs about this about a week before lockdown, and he told me that it was a very apposite title, though he wasn't aware of it when they were filming, but he said it was appropriate. And I asked if that meant that the Daleks would be revolving a lot, because, you know, that's a revolution. And he said no. So, you know, you heard it here first. Hot news from radiotimes.com. The Daleks won't just be pointlessly spinning around for, you know, a good hour this Christmas. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be quite an interesting episode, and I'm interested to see what happens with this new design, because of course, you know, based on what we've said, we don't know if this is like, oh yes, this is the new official Dalek design, or whether, you know, they're doing something else. Like the fact that there are bronze Daleks in the episode, that's been confirmed. That's the official term, I think, bronze Daleks. We'll just go with that. You know, that suggests that maybe, you know, there could be a bit of a thing where, you know, the new Dalek comes out and they destroy him, and it's a bit of a message saying like, don't worry, we're going to keep the design. Or it could be, you know, that's just one and there's loads of others. This could be a variation, you know, it might sit alongside the other Daleks. You know, it's a Recon Dalek, maybe these are normal Daleks. I mean, there's a slight canon inconsistency about that, which I'll get to in a moment. But yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what happens with it, because I do feel like you say that it wouldn't be my choice if you wanted to have like every Dalek looking like that. I don't mind having variations on a theme that are a bit more varied, if you get what I mean. Because we have kind of just had that one design, apart from, you know, attempted things like the new Paradigm, for quite a while now. And it would be quite cool to see some more, you know, experimentation.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely on board for the idea of variant Daleks. I think if the idea is that this slightly tweaked version of the Recon Dalek with the black shell is the new, as you say, status quo Dalek design, and in Revolution of the Daleks, we see them wipe out the bronze Daleks and take their place. I feel like that's a risky move to take, given that the last time that sort of thing happened,
that exact thing
pretty much that exact thing happened was with the new Paradigm Daleks, and the backlash was so great that they then backtracked. And you know, Chris Chibnall's a smart man; he knows this. So to have a new Dalek design that is, you know, it does depart a little from the classic look, and have them established as the new status quo. Yeah, it's a risk, because you don't want to roll it back twice. The trouble is, those bronze Daleks are just such a good look.
It's really, I mean, when you think about it, the fact that it's a 2005 design, like it's 15 years old, you know, put together, you know, probably under pretty trying circumstances, and it's basically remained the same for 15 years because it's just so good. It's just the proportions are really good. I know there's classic designs of the Daleks some people probably prefer, but I don't think anyone has a problem with the bronze ones. Do you know what I mean? Like, which is pretty unique in Doctor Who terms, of people, you know, when you think of everyone's likes and dislikes with TARDISes, interiors and exteriors, these Daleks being as popular as they are, I mean, it's kind of a miracle. But you look at them, and I was looking at, there's a nice picture we've been using online of Peter Capaldi with one of them from the pilot, and I was just sort of thinking, God, it looks really good, doesn't it? It just looks really, like, not realistic, but it's just, I think it doesn't age too badly because it's got that kind of timeless look, that kind of burnished copper thing. It's a little bit very, very like 5% steampunky, and like a little bit sci-fi as well. And it's just sort of, it falls really nicely, I think.
And when you say realistically, I do sort of know what you mean, because I think, again, it has what I was saying before. It has that heft. It has a sort of weight to it, and it feels substantial. Whereas this new design maybe doesn't so much. And I think you have to be very, very careful when you're making changes to the Dalek design, because it has changed a little, but the basic design of the Daleks hasn't really altered since 1963. And the reason the 2005 design, the bronze Dalek design, works so well is because it does make some changes to it, but they're not all that noticeable, you know, that you're just kind of like sort of new and improved, given a bit of a polish. But it's basically that same old Dalek design. Whereas like the Cybermen, people have different opinions on which is the best Cybermen design, but it has changed quite dramatically over the years. Whereas even the slightest tweak to a Dalek design can really provoke debate and controversy and discussion.
Definitely. I mean, I do kind of find it funny, the idea that in 2010 they were like, new Daleks, we'll make them bigger and chunky, and everyone's like, no, this is terrible. And Chris Chibnall thinks, I hear you, it's going to be way smaller. That's the obvious takeaway from this. You don't want them to be too big, I'm going to make them too small.
The takeaway from the new Paradigm is not to never mess with the Dalek design, it's just right, too chunky. Let's make them slimline Daleks.
Yeah, let's make them slim and small, you know, like a remote control toy. No, I mean, we might be being a bit harsh here. Like, as we say, I've said it again and again, you know, caveats. We haven't seen them in action. And, you know, I mean, I know a lot of people do quite like the new Paradigm Daleks as well. You know, if anyone's listening in, you know, with their interesting opinions. But yeah, no, I'm intrigued to see it in action. I'm quite excited as well. Like, you know, I think we're probably still a little way away from getting a lot of official Doctor Who announcements about Revolution of the Daleks. So I kind of don't mind, you know, obviously no one wants to see terrible spoilers or anything like that, but it is quite nice to have these little details kind of dribbling out here and there this far ahead. Because, you know, I mean, who knows what Doctor Who we're going to get in the foreseeable future. So we've kind of got to get our excitement going for what has been pre-shot, which obviously, you know, if that hasn't been made clear by what we've said already, Revolution of the Daleks was shot ages ago, back in late 2019. So it was well clear pre-pandemic, bar, you know, post-production work. So we will definitely get to see this new Dalek, you know, this festive season. And we'll be like, oh, we're so grateful. Doctor Who's still on TV. I hate it. Why is it like this?
Yeah, the classic, you know, back and forth of being a Doctor Who fan. No, but you're right. Like, unlike other TV dramas at the moment, Doctor Who is in a reasonably good place, in that it has an episode finished or all but finished. You sort of wonder if the lack of other finished programming might even see it reclaim the old Christmas Day slot, if only because there's nothing else to go in there, which is just pure speculation. But
I mean, it's possible. Like, I mean, you never know. It depends. I guess it depends what the BBC wants to do and what, you know, the Doctor Who people might want to do, because they might not want that kind of, you know, the pressure of that, especially if it's not a particularly festive episode. But, you know, maybe that's the present we'll all be opening on Christmas Day, is a brand new Dalek that we all don't like. No, but I'm sure a lot of people will love it. I mean, a lot of people really like the Recon Dalek. I know that they did an action figure of it, and that was very popular. I think the thing for me was that, with it, just to kind of go back to it, was I think I echo with a lot of people and kind of what you say, when the Dalek's kind of approximating its casing out of junk, it's kind of fun to have that as a sort of one-off design. I'm not sure if I'm like, great, let's make them all like that now. You know, I feel like it's kind of specific. It's a little like they'll, to be honest, as much as I like Shad the Cyberman, I'm not sure if you'd want them all to be like that, like kind of half done, but like slightly better. Speaking of which, I almost forgot to talk about my niggles with canon with regards to the new Recon Dalek, which I'm sure everyone...
We can't have an episode of this podcast go by without discussing our issues with canon. Come on.
Yeah, can this be the niche trivia corner? I think it's sort of... Yeah, this almost counts as niche trivia. So, in Resolution, basically the story, in case anyone's forgotten, is that this is a Dalek that's been, like, destroyed, chopped up into little bits, buried around the world. And the story is the Dalek manages to reassemble its body, not the outside body yet, the inside body, possesses someone, gets them to build it a new shell, looting some of its old weapons, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, basically, in the story, the Dalek creates out of scrap metal and things like that, this shell, and you think, oh, that's cool. And then, so, you know, it would follow if you're thinking, oh, that must just be what the Recon Dalek looked like before, you know, it's fine. But in the episode, there is evidence that that isn't true, because you sort of see these old historical accounts and things of what happened to this Dalek. And if you look at the Dalek in these drawings, it's pretty clearly a gold or bronze Dalek. It's that style. Like, there's a little bit of leeway because it's hand drawn, but you know, it's definitely that.
Right. So as my fan brain understands it, the issue there then is, if it was a bronze design Dalek initially, it only looks like a Recon Dalek because that was the closest approximation it could get to of a bronze Dalek using the scrap it could get its hands on. So therefore, why do these new fully formed black Daleks also look like the Recon Dalek? Is that the issue?
Yes. Because it doesn't make sense. Because if that is a specific design to Daleks, then it's not a Recon Dalek, because the Recon Dalek didn't look like that when it was reconning Earth. If it's not a Recon Dalek, why did it go for that design? Why not make something that was rusty but the exact same as a bronze Dalek? You know, it doesn't quite make sense. My theory is, to explain it away, is that it was an artist's impression. Maybe the you know, medieval person didn't actually see the Recon Dalek and kind of went with, maybe it saw another Dalek. You never know. It's Doctor Who. Or maybe it kind of heard other accounts and just drew it like that. You know, possible. Maybe that was another design that this Dalek had in its memory and thought, this is smaller, so it will be easier to make. but I'll make it exactly like that rather than a smaller version of my design. Or possibly, in IRL terms, it's, you know, because they didn't want to reveal, oh, here's our new Dalek design, which might be our Dalek design for a few years. We don't want to have it in this little drawing, so we'll do the Dalek that people recognize and then reveal it later on. No one's going to notice that. No one's going to pick apart that level of pointless detail. But they were wrong.
You underestimate us. Yeah. No. Also, another option is that the damaged bronze Dalek, when it recreated its shell out of scrap and built this new Recon look, it just thought, do you know what? Quite like that. Looks pretty good. And then, you know, uploaded the design to the Dalek mainframe, and then all Daleks from then on decided that they would mimic the scrap look because they'd shed a few pounds. They were happy with how they were looking. Maybe that's what happened.
It beamed straight to Scaro's best fashion designers, and they were like, "Oh, what an innovation! Innovate!" And then they were like, "This is perfect."
It's like the Daleks have undergone a Queer Eye makeover.
I love that, yeah. And they're like, they come back into the to the sort of crucible or whatever, the Dalek ship, the Dalek Emperor's chamber, and they open it and there's loads of like exposed brick and like new tape and photos of all the Daleks with their friends and stuff. I would definitely love to see that.
You look amazing, babe. Yeah.
I think that would be. To us, that'd be. We could do that in lockdown. You know, get some Daleks together. Get Bobby Burke on the blower. Tan France. You know, I think it could work. I mean, I think technically with I'm going to put a different, even nerdier hat on. I think doesn't the Recon Dalek like explode or something before it contacts anybody? So I'm not sure how that would track. But yeah, I reckon it might. Maybe it just got up. Maybe a Dalek happened to be passing and sort of got a little blast of it and was like, oh, you know what? There's definitely a thing you could work out.
There's ways around it, and there's Big Finish stories to explain it away.
Yeah, obligatory mention of Big Finish. Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure someone will come up with a theory even better than our well thought out ideas as to how this all ties in. And maybe it doesn't matter. You know, maybe we're being incredibly picky and very unfair. But that's kind of, you know, we've got to do something to entertain ourselves these days.
That's the job of a Doctor Who fan, is to be picky and unfair. Come on.
It is. It's true. It's in the job description, and especially, you know, and podcasters are supposed to be, you know, needlessly in depth on everything. So, you know, there's a lovely Venn diagram that's closer together than Dalek Roundels of the terrible ways that we can react to Doctor Who stuff. I'm pretty excited to see it. It's one of those things where, like, even if, you know, it's kind of like with Doctor Who itself. Even if you don't like a Dalek design, it doesn't necessarily stay for very long, and there'll be another one along that you like later. It's what people say about episodes or series or eras of Doctor Who. You know, there'll be another one you like at some point.
Yeah, and I do feel like that classic Dalek design is pretty untouchable. And you know, I'm not trying to shoot down this new Dalek design before I've even seen it on screen, because as we said, you know, the resolution Recon Dalek on screen I actually thought was really effective.
Yeah.
But having said that, you sort of feel like they'll go back to, even if it's not necessarily the bronze Dalek, they will eventually go back to something that looks a little more traditional. I just don't think it's a design that you can really play with too much or for too long.
Definitely. I mean, and you know, there's also the possibility that this leaked photo isn't actually from the episode, and we have been pointlessly discussing something that will never be in Doctor Who. You know, I mean, anything is possible. But you know what? You by tuning in, you're wasting your own time as much as we are ours. So, you know, and that's the official tagline of the RadioTimes.com Doctor Who podcast. Well, I think we've explored and exposed ourselves enough there. And yeah, I feel like we've also covered quite a lot of Dalek stuff there. Next week, though, we're going to keep on with looking ahead in Doctor Who, because we've been looking back for a while. Traveling forward through the time vortex. Because next week we're going to chat all about how social distancing may or may not affect Doctor Who, because there's been some news on that front as to whether Doctor Who will be able to continue, and you know what that could mean, whether in for a long delay, whether the series could be altered in some way. You know, lots of things there. But yeah, tune in next week for hear us talking about that. But in the meantime, I've been Huw Fullerton.
I've been Morgan Jeffrey.
And I've been a Dalek. No, I haven't. And thanks for listening. Goodbye.